Run With Chestnut. All right, Run With Chestnut, episode 1. Today we're talking about The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. So, Simon, welcome to the first episode.
Thank you.
Well, we've technically done some before, but we can call this the first episode because that didn't really go anywhere. Anyway, details. So, is this the first time you're reading this book?
It is, which is pretty interesting. After I read it, I was kind of surprised that I didn't read it before.
Well, because a lot of people. So, like, I read this first in middle school, and I think a lot of people read this in like when they're going through school because it's a pretty popular like coming of age. There's a lot of discussion around social change and different sort of status, but it's also like easily digestible, right?
It is very.
So I think it's different, like coming from the perspective of having read it before. I mean, granted, it's been like more than 10 years, but having read it before and then revisiting it versus having never read it before. Right.
Right. So I'm kind of,
go ahead.
I'm kind of curious to hear like your perspective of what, if you even remember what you thought of it as a kid versus what you think now.
Well, that's the interesting thing, right? Because like, obviously as a kid, you pick out different things than you do now. So it's like I'm reading through it, I'm finding myself both remembering stuff that I forgot and also just noticing things that I didn't notice back then, right. Which is a cool thing about this kind of book because it makes the discussion of social change very accessible to young people. Like usually it's not like a dry textbook on social change or anything or a different status. It's a story about some kids. I mean, okay, we could do like a brief run through, right? So there's these kids called the Greasers, or they're not all kids. There's a group of dudes called the Greasers, and they live on like the rough side of town, right? They put hair grease in their hair.
Yes,
and they talk about each other as being greasy as a compliment.
Yeah.
And then you have the Socs. You want to talk about what the Socs are?
They're the upper class families who basically they live all on the opposite side of town. They're a lot more wealthier, and they tend to pick on the Greasers a lot. Yeah,
well, they pick on each other, right? Like that's sort of the thing. And they have the fans. They're the rich kids. Greasers are like the poor kids. But I think they equally go after each other. I feel at least that's.
I kind of got the sense that like the Socios went after the Greasers and the Greasers just fought back.
Yeah, that's interesting because I feel, because also you got to bear in mind, this is from the perspective of the Greasers, right?
Right.
So like maybe like there was no scene in this book that explicitly like showed a Greaser like picking on, like starting a fight.
Right.
But you got like, think like Dallas.
Right.
Crazy white dude from New York, right? You got to imagine he pick on some. So you know what I mean? Like I don't think it's a one-sided thing,
right? That's
even
true.
though
that's
like,
true.
Because like we identify with the Greasers because like that's the perspective we read. I mean, it's just opinion, right?
Right.
I will say to start off. So we're going to talk a little bit about like things we like, things we didn't like. And then at the end we'll say our favorite thing or character or scene or whatever, and then like key takeaways, right? So but that we'll say that to the end. So for now I will say one thing that I liked, or one person I liked, was 2-Bit. Remember him?
Yes.
2-Bit is such like that kind of character just jives with me because
also
he's very free spirited and like goofs around a lot. And I feel like in this sort of situation where it's maybe not so funny or like not, like he'd crack a joke when it was the least appropriate.
Right.
You know what I mean? just the worst time. And I feel like that I don't know, it made me relate to him. Who'd you like?
What about Soda Pop? I don't know. I kind of found him kind of interesting.
Okay, so the main character in this book, right, is Pony Boy Curtis, and they all have weird. Okay, so his name's Pony Boy, last name Curtis.
Curtis. And then he has two older brothers. One is Derry, and Derry's not a very weird name. And then the middle brother is Soda Pop.
Which is also interesting.
Yeah. And now Derry is kind of the more like older brother, strict, kind of, is kind of like the father figure because their parents died in a car crash. And Soda Pop is kind of the middle child. So he has to play peacemaker between Ponyboy and Derry because Derry picks on Ponyboy. But yet Soda Pop is also kind of, how would you describe him? He's kind of this, he also kind of seems like this kind of like free-spirited type of person to me too.
Yeah, and he definitely, I mean, I would say he's the type of guy that I feel like would be like Ponyboy, but because of his situation, he was forced to grow up faster and be more like Daryl.
Right.
And it's interesting because like the underlying tone through this whole thing is a relationship between Daryl, the older brother, and Ponyboy.
Yeah.
And it's like they start off sort of, I mean, they didn't hate each other, but like they didn't see eye to eye, right? And as the story goes on, we should say probably like there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this thing. So don't listen if you don't want spoilers. But basically, as the story goes on, I think Daryl, like they get closer and closer. They identify with each other until at the end, I feel like they're more friends than just family,
Well, yeah, but the whole thing when Ponyboy was falling asleep in the lot and then came home and Derry was like, "Where are you?" And then he hits him and Ponyboy runs away. That whole thing kind of.
He runs. So let's talk. So the guy there's another character named Johnny, right?
Johnny, which I in a way kind of related in a way to him.
Yeah, he's like the kid that no one really, or like his parents didn't like him, right? They like beat on him, and then so when Ponyboy runs off to the lot, like Johnny goes with him, and then so rewind a little bit before, like the way this book starts is like a movie, I guess, a movie theater, right? They come out, and basically what happens in the beginning, or like in the beginning section, is they talk to these girls who are quote unquote like Soc girls,
right?
And they end up talking to them and walking with them like home. And then these Socias, like the guys roll up, and immediately that sort of is the tension point. The Socias think that like they're trying to like steal the girls. And so those Socias that rolled up, who were like accusing, Ponyboy and those folks of trying to steal the girls, they roll up on Ponyboy and Johnny, like in the lot after, Ponyboy and Johnny run away. Right. So they roll up, they start beating on them. Johnny goes all crazy and like stabs one of them.
Well, yeah, now this happens. So
this is later on.
This is later on. So right after you were talking about before, when the Socios rolled up, like when they were walking home with the girls, they did get a run-in from the Socios, the boys. But then one of the girls, Cherry.
I did not like her.
She
go ahead.
She says that, okay, we'll go home with you. And then she's like, "Oh, if I don't say hi to you, Ponyboy, don't take it personally."
Oh, I did. Well, first of all, when she said, "I'll go home with you," as in, she decided to go home with the Socias,
right?
So that there wouldn't be a fight.
Boyfriend.
Yeah. But then, like you said, she told Ponyboy, like, "Hey, by the way, if I see you in school," because they all go to the same school.
Yeah.
If I see you in school, I might not say hi to you. Which immediately I was like, "Oh, I don't like you,"
Yeah, I mean, like, and she had trouble like picking sides too later on, it seemed.
Oh yeah.
But basically, like, so then what happens is Johnny, Ponyboy and Johnny, they kind of fall asleep, and that leads to Ponyboy coming home late. Derry then hitting him. Ponyboy runs away. And then so him and Johnny, they run away, and where did they go again?
Well, no. But before they run away, I thought this was hilarious. Okay, and this is gonna be. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite scene, but it's definitely one of my favorite ones. They roll up to Dally's place, or no, to some like party to find Dallas, aka Dally, right? Not their older brother Daryl, but Dally,
right?
Their buddy
that's after they kill.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but I mean, so I guess they don't technically run away before Johnny kills the kid, but what I mean is Ponyboy does run away from home.
Oh, you meant they just like run to the lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then what happens is they get a run-in at the socials. The socials try to drown Ponyboy. Johnny gets scared and stabs Bobby. And then they run away to go see Dally.
Exactly. They're like, yo, man, we just killed someone. Like, what are we going to do? And Dally's like, bro, be cool. Be cool.
Yes.
Here's $50. Here's a gun. Yes. There's an abandoned church out of town. You take this freight train that you have to jump on. I think it was a train, right? They took or something.
Right.
And they go to this church and hide out at this church. And they have to like stock up on food. It's like the most hilarious thing. They have a gun. They have $50 or a bit of cash, and they have to stock up on this food,
which was bologna, bread, and a copy of Gone with the Wind, which I never read.
Exactly. Okay, that's great. And they have to like, I mean, this is like a small scene, but they basically had to like do a disguise. So they like chopped each other's hair off and like dyed it with peroxide or something. It was really strange. I would say the part of this book that there are two parts that like touch, like that was like, oh, okay, right to the heart. And I'd say the first part was Dally comes and finds them. They go somewhere to get food, and when they get back to the church to get their stuff, because Dally's like, yo, let's go back home.
Johnny wants to turn himself in.
Johnny wants to turn himself in. They're all like, all right, let's go home. So they go back to the church to get their stuff, and this church is on fire. And all these like kids from like a school trip are trapped inside, and they're like, yo, like, let's go save him. So they like run inside and they save him. And then long story short, Johnny like gets trapped under a thing. He gets to the hospital. He's like very, very hurt because he was trapped under a burning log in the church. And Dally just goes crazy because Dally loves Johnny, because I think the only thing he thinks is good in the world. And then, I mean, there's a whole like rumble and fight. I mean, we don't have to like summarize everything.
Right.
But
basically Johnny dies at the end.
Yeah, Johnny dies. But before he dies, no, not before he dies. There's a Robert Frost poem that he leaves to Dally. And the Robert Frost poem is actually a pretty it's a cool poem. Nothing gold can stay. And it's about just maintaining the purity of, I guess, notice. Well, okay, let's not go into poetry discussion. I feel like that's okay. But basically he leaves this poem to Dally to try to like remind him that there's good in the world.
Right.
And he leaves it for Ponyboy, and he's like, make sure Dally knows that there's still good in the world.
And it's too late.
But it's too late because Dally robs it. He flips out when Johnny dies. He goes and robs a store and is running from the fuzz. And he has an unloaded gun, but like the cops don't know it's unloaded, obviously. So like he points the gun at them. Like, what is it called? Like suicide by cop, right?
Right.
Like he basically gets shot in front of the like those, the greaser guys.
Right.
And so Dally dies, and the book basically ends. Well, you want to talk about how it ends?
Basically, it ends with Ponyboy reading a letter from Johnny saying, if you can give this poem to Dally, but then he can't because Dally's already dead. But basically, he's writing a theme for this assignment that he has to do because failing all his classes after everything that had happened, and he didn't want to accept that Johnny was dead, and he was kind of in a state of mental shock. So he slowly, after reading that letter, he's like, starts to accept Johnny's death and starts to write a theme for his assignment. Which, do you remember what the theme was?
No, go ahead. Finish it off.
No, I don't really remember exactly what he said.
I have no idea
about the thing.
This is a very, very, very good way for both of us to start this thing. I like because it basically ends how it starts. You know what I mean? In the sense that he starts writing this whole story.
Right.
As if,
yes, as if he's writing the book now, or
exactly.
Like yes.
I don't know if that's what you meant by that. I don't remember if there was like a specific thing, but like that's basically like this book is what he writes,
right?
Or it is what his assignment is. So like it's cool when you do that. And we were talking about because we both also saw the movie after we read the book.
What did you think, by the way?
I think before I say the movie, they did this same thing in the movie, where the end of the movie is basically the beginning of the movie.
Beginning, yes.
I liked the movie. I think it was fine. It was good. Why, you didn't like it?
Some parts were good. I just didn't really kind of feel it in terms of the acting. I don't know. I felt like the guy who played Pony Boy, something didn't flow.
I mean, that's the interesting part about, I feel, reading a book and then either listening to the audio or watching a movie, where it's like when we read it, we put all these character traits in our head.
Right.
And then either when we listen to an audiobook where we have like another person acting it out, or we watch a movie where there's an actor, it's like if that image doesn't jive with what we picture as we're reading words, there's like this clash, I feel. You know what I mean?
That's true. But then like with other books, for example, The Godfather, when I read that and then saw the movie.
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I wonder if you saw the movie The Outsiders first and then read the book, I wonder if you would feel the same way. Because you would have already had that picture of Pony Boy in your head first.
Maybe.
You know, I mean, it's hard to tell, right? Like,
it is.
Who knows? But I mean,
I just felt like the book kind of moved, like it was more, I guess you'd say, emotional than the movie was. I didn't feel like the character's delivery or the actor's delivery just didn't quite do it for me.
You didn't do it for you? Okay. No. I will say, man, when he was running from the cops, Dally at the end, and when Johnny died, that got me. And then with the kids, like in the burning church.
Yeah,
I would say those two scenes did it for me. I think
they were good, but like I guess I didn't like Pony Boy in particular.
Okay, you just didn't like the character. Okay,
the actor that played him, I guess.
Wasn't there who played in that movie? Isn't there like a famous guy? I'm very bad with actor names, but
I don't know.
Okay, we should we'll look it up and bring it in the future episodes. But basically, there's I think there's like some famous actor that was in that movie before they became famous. Like that was one of the first times it came out. Right. I don't know. Well, I'm not gonna conjecture anyway. So okay, stuff we like, stuff we didn't like. What's your favorite part of this movie, or this book, or favorite scene, or favorite thing, or character, or favorite anything?
I think I'd have to say when Johnny and Pony Boy were running away and trying to like figure out what to do. It was just kind of cool to see like how they looked after one another.
They like took care of each other.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Because there's a lot of favorite parts, and like I don't want, because if I had to pick between Johnny saving those kids in the church, or the Rumble, or Dally's suicide, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of good parts in it. It's hard to pick, so I'll just go with that one. Okay, that's fair. I hate when people ask me like, "What's your favorite blank?" question, because I never like, "What's your favorite food? What's your favorite music?" Like I don't have one. So, and the hilarious part is I'm the one who came up with that question for this. Right. So it's like coming up with whatever I hate. But anyway, oh man, there's so many good options. I would say my favorite part is the scene with the kids in the church. Yeah, because I think that leads. Well, first of all, it's an awesome scene, right? Both in the book and the movie. Second of all, so we should also, I mean, we kind of skipped over the whole underlying point of this book. What I think is the underlying point of this book, which is also for this last talking point that we have about key takeaways. Is my key takeaway, which is, it's actually, well, okay. So let's rewind a little bit. There's a quote that
Cherry has, or Sherry, where it says something like, we have problems I bet you never even heard of.
Right.
To Pony Boy, which is basically saying like, you think, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? She's like, you think you have it all bad. We have it all good with all our money and stuff. Like, there's problems that you never even heard of, which I think the whole point of this book is like outlining or underlying, like, there's always problems.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you always think the other side of the fence is better. Right. Unless you're there, and then you think that your side's, you know what I mean? It's like, and so I think go ahead.
So would you say him saving those kids is kind of like trying to eliminate their problems, or trying to? No.
I think because that underline that, like, obviously, like, because that's why the newspaper articles. So there was a newspaper article written about Johnny and Pony Boy and Dallas saving those kids, and because of that article, you had one of the Socs guy, I forgot his name, Randy, I think.
Randy, who didn't want to.
He said he didn't want all this like conflict. He pulled Pony Boy aside and was like, "Hey man, was that you saving the kids? Like, that's awesome. Like, I don't think I would have done that myself." And Pony Boy was like, "I bet you would have." So I think like that whole scene just serves to like start showing in this book that like, okay, there are things that divide people, but like at the bottom of things, like, everyone has things in common. Like, you know what I mean? It's the divide doesn't go as deep as people make them go.
That's a good point.
So
but would you say like any heroic act in a book or a movie or anything like that, it's touching?
It's touching, but like, that's not why I'm saying this scene is my favorite.
Right.
I'm saying it's my favorite because it is like the catalyst that sparks, I think, what this book is all about. Like, without that scene, you wouldn't have had that reconciliation at the end where like Randy and Pony Boy kind of like, they have a truce kind of going on, Yes. Like, I don't think you would have had that because Randy wouldn't have been like, yo, that's pretty cool. Whatever. Like that's the reason why
Randy also said, your friend, the one that saved those kids, he's going to die too, huh?
Exactly. So which, like, humanizing him basically,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a cool scene for obviously what happened in the moment, and then also what came of it, like, later on.
Right.
Which that leads to the last point about the key takeaways from this book. I think the takeaway is always identify that the other side, it's not, you're not the only one dealing with stuff. The other side, whether it's like whoever your quote unquote enemies are in life, right? Whoever the other side is for you or me or whatever, they always have good and bad sides. It's not just all bad, right? Like, just learn to identify all around, kind of like what this book demonstrates. Like, the Socs aren't all bad, even though it's from the perspective of the greasers, right?
Right.
It's just like learning to view things from multiple perspectives, I think.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your key takeaway from this book?
Kind of similar to yours. I don't really think of it that deeply, but basically, it was also kind of like accept one another for who they are, and
that's well said.
Yeah.
You basically summed up everything I said in like a sentence. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I mean, that's pretty solid. Cool. Anything else to add on this book? Go ahead.
I am impressed that, did you know that she wrote this when she was in high school?
No, I had no idea. This is the first time you're telling me. Did she really write it when she was in high school?
She wrote it when she was like 15. Yeah.
Dude, that's pretty sick.
I know.
I did not know that.
I know.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Good. That's an awesome way to end this. I had no idea.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed.
Where'd you hear about that?
I looked it up. I don't know. I looked up the book on Wikipedia, or the author or something. I just see what else she wrote.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it just said, okay, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else to add?
No.
All right, cool. I think next week we're coming back with a book that I think so I never thought I'd be. We'll intro it briefly and then we'll skip it or whatever. But so I will preface this by saying I never thought I'd be reading this book, first of all. Second of all, like it's just, well, okay, it's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. And it's about what the title it sounds like. It's about organizing and tidying up. And at first, I mean, I thought this lady was a nutcase, like in the best way possible. All the love, all the good to her. Like that's crazy. But it's like there's a huge movement behind it, right? There's like a Netflix show about it. Like there's this whole thing. So it's like, all right, let's get into it and see what it's about, right? Like millions of people can't be, well, okay, I guess millions of people can't be nuts, but let's see what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You sound super excited about this.
It'll be interesting. I mean, I'm not saying I'll probably do any of what is in that book, but I'm just interested to see.
Well, let's see, right? And the whole like, what do we learn from this book, right? It's like have an open mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, this is perfect. Actually, this book is the other side, right? So we got to learn to view things from other side. This is okay. This is
and
good.
We will have someone else joining us.
We will have someone else join us, and you will meet her next week.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it at that. Cool?
Cool.
All right. Show notes. Go to runwithchestnut.com. You'll see the list of books we have coming up. Yada, yada. All right. Peace out. See y'all later. Good job, Simon.
Yep.
All right.
You too. Bye.
See ya.